The new Deadpool trailer is out, and the talk of the century, and everybody's excited to see Wolverine making an appearance in the new movie. Deadpool is making his way into the TVA, aka the Time Wizards of Marvel, and yet Deadpool is here to show us the inner workings of the MCU. He said it himself.
I am Marvel Jesus.
I'm here to say it outright. Deadpool plans to do what no Marvel film character has set out to do. He's going to change the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Not the narrative, but the reality of film production and corporate overlords. Let's talk about it. Hi! Oh god, this is awful. Thanks so much for letting me borrow your screen. My name is Oridont. This world kind of sucks, so let's build a new one. Unlike most characters you see in, well, anything, Deadpool can canonically break the fourth wall, meaning he's aware of us as viewers watching this movie. Though this self-awareness makes for great comedy, it serves a much more substantial purpose as well. It's a way for the writers to speak to us, as viewers, in a much more direct way than a standard filmmaker could. I'm going to explain why I think that Deadpool 3 will not just be another funny, entertaining, R-rated movie, but a PSA from the writers and creators of Marvel. There's a concept I've referred to in the past, specifically in a video that long exists on my channel. By that, I mean it's been deleted. Narrative augmentation. Simply put, this is indulging a viewer with concepts or content that surpasses its medium. Okay, what does that mean? When you go to watch a film, the amount of content you would expect to consume would fit within its playtime. For instance, if you're watching a 90-minute movie, we could reasonably expect to consume 90 minutes worth of content. Narrative augmentation changes this. When this concept is employed, the content continues to exist when the film ends, usually through some kind of real-world implications. If you've ever heard of an ARG, you know all about this. Deadpool flirts with this idea regularly by doing things like sending tweets as Deadpool, interacting with communities in character, and breaking the fourth wall. What is a fourth wall? If we imagine a room in a movie, we generally will never see more than 3 walls of that room, just based on how the camera or any viewing medium functions. When a character speaks to the viewer, they're speaking to this elusive fourth wall that we can't see, or rather they're breaking it to speak to us. In fictional media, there's a rule to never spiking the camera. This phrase refers to when somebody looks directly into the camera's lens, essentially making eye contact with us as viewers. This is extremely off-putting if you're not expecting it, and some movies take advantage of this, much like Deadpool does, pretty much as a regular hobby. But Deadpool has an excuse for this, right? Deadpool is aware that he's in a movie, just like how in the comics he was aware of the fact that he was in a comic book. In the comic series where Deadpool slayed the entire MCU, yes, he did that, Professor Xavier peered into his mind to try to divulge his reasoning. He wanted to know what possessed somebody to do something so terrible. But once he looked, he realized. Through the mind of Deadpool, Xavier discovered us, the fact that they lay within the pages of a comic, used purely for the entertainment of superhero fans like you and me. This is a pretty deep subject, but I'm focused on what this means canonically. Now, let me preface, there's a debate there about the canon of the series in specific, but it's the idea I'm interested, not the plot. This meta-awareness is a real thing in the MCU. There's a bridge between us and these characters. More than a bridge, it's a tool for the writers to take advantage of. The trailer to Deadpool 3 talks about Marvel and Disney as corporations pretty often, like when he talked about how it's Disney's first pegging. They grow up so fast. This is hilarious, don't get me wrong, but it's also Deadpool talking about the actual state of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the issues they work against trying to function as a multi-billion-dollar business. We crave this endless stream of billion-dollar content goodness, but in order to sustain and grow as a corporation and appease the executives, the writers have to exist within certain limitations. In a vacuum, this is purely a hindrance. It prevents the creative team from being able to use certain ideas, but they got clever. This leads to a really interesting type of dramatic irony. For those who don't know, dramatic irony exists when we, as viewers, are aware of something that the characters are not. It's a common tool in writing, but in Deadpool, it's the key to taking Marvel's narrative scope to a new place, somewhere that no production of its size has ever been before. Thank you so much for watching this video. Wait, no. wrong one. Let's stop for a second. I want to tell you real quick that, first of all, this is the worst setup I've probably ever done in my life, but we're here and you're here, which means you should subscribe. I think that makes sense. That's a good deal. Subscribe. Next week is going to be about Utopia, and I know you're so excited about that, and I know you definitely know what that means. Subscribe. It's stated in the comics that Deadpool is diagnosed with cancer, though his mutant abilities developed during his disfigurement. When he heals, he reverts back to his cancerous state, because that's what his mutant ability remembers his body to be. This is one of the reasons for his mental instability. Perhaps in universe, when Deadpool looks at us in the camera, characters just chalk it up to him being clinically insane. And sure, it seems that way, but he's right. We are here on the other side of the screen. This is the dramatic irony. The characters from within the show don't know what we know. Deadpool does, but nobody else knows. The connection this creates seems uncanny, but it's so clever. Deadpool serves as a conduit between us and a production team that is limited by big business. There's very few franchises that I can say a huge part of the community is theorizing about upcoming stories based on actor contracts and business acquisitions. Now, his humor can be used to send coded messages. Iron Man's death was predicted before it was shown based on Robert Downey Jr.'s contract expiring. Similar predictions were made about Captain America and his role in the greater scheme. There's practical speculations on how the X-Men will appear in films, a tangential supernatural force that coexists with other Marvel teams in the comics. And these are based on the ownership of certain intellectual properties, who owns what companies, and so on. I've never seen a community of superhero nerds so well versed in the difference between copyright and trademarks, and for good reason. The story that Marvel is telling exists outside their content, the headlines they make, the contracts made public, the limitations they face. They're spinning a tale of real life, with conflicts and resolutions and climaxes. Marvel has to stay under the glass ceiling of their investors, and they need to make copious amounts of money to sustain what they're doing here. And the writers are telling us that, spinning a real-world story from a bunch of not real-world stories. This kind of reminds me of Markiplier in space. Little bit of a tangent here, for just a second. There's kind of an idea here, and that kind of goes back to the narrative augmentation idea, that is using something outside of your media to enforce your media. Now, this isn't super common in big business, I would say, but it's really cool to see it happening here. Like, this is like a once-in-a-lifetime thing to me, and I really hope it becomes more common. If you haven't seen Markiplier in Space, I heavily recommend you check it out. It is such a cool experience. It's insane to see such a massive company making such innovative strides like this. The old story format works, but this narrative innovation breaks new ground. And one person knows that better than anybody else. Deadpool himself. Unlike most characters you see in, well, anything, Deadpool is aware that we're in a theater seat watching a film projection of his antics. In fact, he's probably aware that theaters aren't doing too well and that you're likely to be watching it using a streaming service at home. He's proven time and time again that it's a funny bit, but it's also more than that. Characters like Deadpool could be used by the writers to send messages to the community about the limitations they suffer. Thank you so much for watching this video about Deadpool and what he's gonna be doing to our lovely, lovely, tiny little baby Disney that is about this big and definitely isn't in control of all media. If you want to watch more stuff like this, make sure to click the button on the left. Am I pointing to the left? I might be pointing to the left. I might be pointing to the right. If I'm pointing to the left, click on that one to see another video just like that one, or click on whatever the other button is to check out a playlist of other videos like this. Thanks.